I love the sound of the alto trombone. I truly do think it is the most underrated brass instrument ever. But you're a tenor player. Why do you need to learn alto? Well, in this two-part video series, I want to show you how you can start playing alto without it costing you a ton of money. And I want to give you a few pro tips on how to play it well. And if you dedicate, I don't know, at least 15 minutes every day to it, you'll start to get comfortable and you'll start loving to play it, assuming you practice the right things, which is what I want to show you in this video. Now, first, a little background. I started playing alto exclusively midway through college. I was a tenor player, learning to play tenor for 10 years. But one day, my college teacher took one out of its case, and I thought to myself, there's my jazz Ferrari. And I was gigging and I was attending Arizona State, so I had to keep up my tenor. But after a while of gaining some ability with the alto, I realized that if I was really going to play it, I had to commit to it. So I sold my tenor and I haven't owned one since. And by Ferrari, I don't mean, fast like Bob McChesney or Bill Watrous fast. I mean that the alto speaks quicker. It's a shorter tube, right? And I said Ferrari because of the handling. It produces less looser or blatty note attacks that you can get from a tenor, right? At least that I could get from a tenor, right? Crisp. Now, the sound, because of the shorter tube, you have a higher fundamental. It's E flat for the horn I play. So your overtones are higher and brighter, and the overall sound of the horn stands out more from the more mid-range overtones of tenor. And that's great for big bands, trombone choirs, burning Latin, or so, where can you get one? Well, I did a video a long time ago about the Moz alto trombone, and I'll link to that video in the comments below. It's an excellent starter alto, and it's going to cost you somewhere between $200 and $400 new, and that's pretty good. Now, you can also try the Roy Benson alto, which is very similar to the Moz. You could dip your toe in the water by just getting a $150 P-bone, but it's marketed as a kid's trombone, which to me translates to toy. But check it out. I made an entertaining video on the P-bone that I'll also link to. But for the price, I recommend getting a real brass instrument, not just a toy. And by the way, I play a sterling silver Adams E-flat alto. And Adams, it actually is more known for their euphoniums, but this is a great axe. And if you're interested, Austin Custom Brass sells them, and I'm not paid to say that. Mouthpieces. Now, altos come with shallow mouthpieces, and that's going to thin out your sound, but you may want that sound, and you may also want the shallower mouthpiece to be able to help you play higher. Now, I play on the same mouthpiece I've used from the very beginning, a 6.5 AL. Now I play the Doug Elliott 6.5 AL. And it allows me to have a bigger tone, which I need in order to blend in with the other trombones if I'm leading a section, and I still want to retain those higher overtones for that edge. But honestly, I'm not an equipment chaser. If some part of my playing sucks, I'm not going to blame the poor equipment. So the question is, how can you learn to play this damn thing? Well, first of all, buy my book, Alto Trombone Savvy, because that's got my best tips, it's got play-alongs, great exercises for quickly learning the positions. And let me give you a few things from the book that you should do in order to start enjoying playing the alto sooner rather than later. So first, learn the positions. Captain Obvious says, right? And yes, it's weird for middle F to be only in 6th position and F above that to be in 3rd, and all the E flats are in 1st. You just have to develop your muscle memory for the positions, just like you did when you learned tenor. Keep in mind that the alto, however, is not just a miniature tenor. It's a different trombone. One thing I recommend is practicing reading music when you're starting out that you already know on tenor, like the Rochu or cello suites and the stuff that you practice with. Remember that the fundamental of your tenor is B flat, the pedal B flat, and the fundamental of the alto is a fourth higher E flat. Now, given all of that, I strongly recommend that you do not treat the alto like it's a transposing instrument. Treat it like your tenor. You see A, you play A, you call it A. Now, I originally wrote Alto Trombone Savvy in bass clef, but then Karsten Svanberg suggested that I publish an alto clef version as well as the bass clef version, and I did. Even though I resisted the idea, if I look back all these years, it's like a 50-50 split between the people buying the bass clef and the alto clef editions. Now, one trick I recommend is to play something that you know really well, like I mentioned earlier, the Bach or the Rochu, and play it using the partials and positions of the tenor. So, for instance, if you look at the jig on cello suite number 1, it would be instead of Now, at least by doing that, you're back into familiar territory position-wise. You just have to get used to hearing it a fourth higher, and some players tell me they have trouble doing that. Now, speaking of pedal tones, which I just played, that low G, if you noticed, you'll run into some of those low notes that you right now easily play on tenor that on a straight alto you can't play naturally, from that low A flat down to E. But an exercise that I provide in Alto Trombone Savvy is to play those false notes in order to develop your ear, because those notes don't lock in, so playing them is 100% up to your ear. So, something like and I recommend doing this from time to time because it allows you to stop thinking about the positions and start hearing the horn. My advice to learning the positions is to just hear those notes. Now, ultimately, it's our ear that guides us in playing the trombone, not memorization and strict measurement of the positions, hopefully, right? So think about that. And get away from the printed page as soon as you can. Go ahead and struggle a bit. Use your ear to find your way around the alto. In my book, I show the position numbers over each of the notes in the beginning exercises, and then in later exercises, I gradually stop giving them to you. It's kind of like weaning you off the position numbers. Okay, that's all for part 1. And in part 2 of this talk on alto, I'm going to give you some more tips for learning it, and I'm also going to give you some thoughts on playing jazz with it. Can you play jazz on alto trombone?